Okay, good morning, everybody. It's really nice to be here and tell you something about what we are doing in Finland regarding the authentication and digitalization. First, I use Twitter myself quite a lot, so if you want to tweet something, please go ahead. Here is my account. So my name is Janne Viskari, and I work as a director in Population Register Center Finland, which is belonging to central government in Finland. And we have been doing pretty much digitalization implementation in Finland during the past years, and I must say that our agency is one of the key agencies in this field in Finland. The digitalization issues in Finland has been centralized in one minister in the government who is responsible for all the plans and strategic decisions, and in the ministry level it is concentrated in the Ministry of Finance. That is a really good decision because it is the most powerful ministry because they have the money. Our agency is operating under the Ministry of Finance, so we have a really good chance to implement things. So my topic today is the Authentication Framework. I will mainly concentrate on that, but I was first thinking that I would, before I going to that, I could tell something more about the bigger picture in Finland, what we have been doing and what we are doing right now, and what kind of plans we have for future. And in Finland itself is a rather small country. We have 5.5 million inhabitants only, but at the same time we are a very big country. Our area is about the same size as Malaysia or Germany has, and that means that our population density is quite low. So we have lots of forests and lots of lakes and lots of empty spaces. In the same time, we have as much as 313 municipalities in Finland. Our governmental structure has two layers. It's a central government and then municipalities at the moment. And because with the 5.5 million population having 313 municipalities, it means that the smallest ones are really small. And each of them have more than 500 tasks based on law. And the most expensive ones are healthcare and education, what the municipalities take or do. And with this amount of municipalities, it is really expensive tasks. And that is one of the key drivers in Finland, that because we have a little bit bad economic situation at the moment and running out of money. So we are quite heavily trying to push the services to the digital channel so that the citizens would rather use the digital services than the physical ones. So we have been doing a digitalization or digital services for a long time, and at least ourselves we believe that we have been doing quite well, and we have had some success in international service, but that is not the whole truth, and we have had some challenges too, and I'm going to show you and tell you a little bit about our challenges, and I hope that if you can avoid, please avoid doing the same mistakes. This is the small study we made 2 years ago by Population Register Center. We sent a letter to all governmental agencies. This is only to governmental agencies, not in municipalities. We asked two quite simple questions. Those were that the first was what e-services you offer to citizens, and second was that when did you took those into use. And we put those answers into the curve, and it is quite nice S-curve. Okay, this one is smoothened by a graphics designer, but the real curve looks exactly the same. And here you can see that the amount of e-services expanded a lot about 5 years ago, or something like that, but it is not increasing anymore. And that tells that everything is basically digitalized. So our governmental agencies don't basically have any services which are offered only in physical channel. And the challenge is here that there are more than 700 e-services only offered by government. And when we add those municipality services, there are several thousands of services. And the problem is that all these services are really small. So when the citizen needs to have some digital service regarding, for example, when during some life change, when, for example, starting studies or something like that, he or she need to visit very many services to get something done, and that is the problem. And we have been working pretty much in the silos also, meaning that the interoperability between these services is quite weak. And that is what we are doing right now in the program, which implementation I'm leading in population registers, and we are focusing on infrastructure layer and trying to get the interoperability better between the services and data exchange and some other kind of supporting services. I will show those a little bit later in the presentations, that what we are doing in practice. And in the current governmental program, we have a own section for digitalization. There are certain strategic priorities. So our program, what I'm leading, was started during the previous governmental period, and then the focus was on infrastructure layer. And in this current governmental period, we have a focus one layer up and focusing on the services itself. And one of the strategic priorities that we have at the moment is smart traffic. And there's something very interesting things that what is happening in smart traffic in Finland at the moment. The other hot topics are mobility and cloud architectures. They are of course present already now. Then my data is something that what we are focusing next year, starting next year, and doing some real implementation and pilots so that the citizen could authorize his or her data to some applications. This picture, what you now see here is this is not any official governmental vision of what is happening. This is an end result of a brainstorming that I have run in population registers, and I do this kind of exercise every year. It's free to participate for all my employees, and so we think that I think that it is better to create a vision so that as many participants as possible will give their thoughts that what probably would happen in the future. Our side here is the 5 years, 10 years, and then 20 years, and then we have another categorization that how do we see that what kind of phenomena would probably happen, and what would surely happen, and what least like. So it is not very important that we can forecast everything beyond 20 years. It is not even possible. But I believe that this kind of exercise is important to do and update regularly, because then we can see the direction where the world is going. And it's not important we know exactly that what is the end point after 20 years. But if we are going to correct direction, then we can of course steer and navigate in the path. But about smart traffic, as I mentioned, we have some really cool things ongoing at the moment. I decided to show something about that today. I must admit that some of those are not so heavily connected to strong authentication, but still I took these as an example because by my understanding these are quite new in the world. I don't know very many of the similar ongoing things which are in the production. This photograph was taken 2 weeks ago in Helsinki. There's a warning sign that says that there's a robot cars in traffic. We have 2 pilot bus routes ongoing. We have self-driving buses in 2 lines. Those are not very long, only a couple of kilometers, but anyway, so that the buses are there having their route, and everyone who needs to have a transportation there can go in. They are free to use at the moment, so these are pilots. Here you can see there are small ones, small buses, and look quite funny. There's an article in New York Times written about our pilots. Then the second one is from Tampere. It's another city in southern Finland. They have traffic wardens use Google glasses, so that with the camera on the glass they can scan the license plate, and then they will see immediately that if the parking fee is paid or not. So there's a register of the parking fees. You can use it by your mobile phone and pay the fees, and with this coin automates, you just need to put your license number there. It goes to the same database, and they can immediately see that if the parking fee is paid. So the same system can be easily connected to other registered data, for example, vehicle data or population register or whatever is needed, so that if they need some other information to the glasses, it is easy to implement. The third smart traffic example is on-demand public transportation. This is a little bit older, and we have already stopped the pilot. It was working many years, and last year, or was it this year? Last spring it was stopped. So it worked so that there was a mobile application where you could order a public transportation, or you could order a bus, like ordering a taxi, and then there was an algorithm that connected each of these queries or orders together, and then the driver had another view which showed that which is the route he needs to drive at these times, and where are the customers he needs to pick up. Unfortunately, this wasn't affordable, so it was making losses, and it was stopped. But the algorithm itself is of course very valuable. Actually, there was in the news yesterday morning that it is going to continue next summer, and at that time there's going to start a commercial company which is combining on-demand public transportation and self-driving buses. So that is going to be really interesting. One more example about that smart traffic example was that last week there was on the news that the one company is starting mobility as a service in Helsinki. I actually started it already, and that means that you can pay one monthly fixed price, and you can then use your smartphone to design the route, and then the application lets you to combine city bikes and buses and trams and metro, even taxi and even rental cars for that with one fixed price. Okay, then let's move closer to strong authentication. And because I come from Population Register Center, this is kind of a must that I need to show. But it is quite heavily connected to strong authentication, and I would say that this is the core of the whole authentication system, that the population register data is in good shape. In Finland, we don't have any census. We haven't had for many years, at least 20-30 years. And that's because we have automated the full process from end to end. Where the babies are born, they will be registered in the hospitals. So in practice, all babies are born in hospitals in Finland. It is impossible to born in some other ways. So they are registered already in hospitals. They will get personal IDs. Same stays for deaths. When the doctor announces somebody to death, or police or court for the missing persons or something like that, they will be automatically registered to Population Register Center or Population Register. Same stays for movings. We have also people's addresses there. It is mandatory to inform when you move to another address, and they go automatically to our register. And it means that this data of our population is up to date all the time. This is taken from our website, from my phone there. So our real-time population there, 5.5 million plus something extra. This was taken last week, but you can visit the page and it would show something different numbers now, because you can see our kind of census data real time all the time. We have been thinking that, or we have been focusing pretty much, maybe too much, on this strong authentication side in Finland for many years, and we haven't, in the government side, we haven't been very interested on this lightweight or weaker authentication mechanism. But during the past couple of years, we have been understanding better that the usability is also really important in authentication. And in the most of the cases, the strong authentication mechanisms, unfortunately, are not that usable than lightweight authentication. So now the thinking is going to that direction, that we also accept some social media or weaker authentication mechanisms, so username password authentication for certain purposes, of course not for all purposes, but for some governmental services may utilize also those, and that is okay, but we only need to carefully consider that what is the use case for that. But we see that these are the basic use cases, that strong authentications must be used in such services where we need to know that who is the physical person behind this digital identity. And another one is then that it is not so important that we know that who is the person, but we just need to connect, for example, the usage history of the service to the user account. In the strong authentication field, we have been doing pretty well, or okay, for more than 20 years now, but we have had huge challenges also there. We have basically three types of token providers in Finland. We have bank IDs, we have our ID card offered by Population Register Center, and then mobile IDs offered by mobile operators. There are in practice 8 banks or bank groups offering bank IDs. They share the same kind of standard or set of standards, so they are technically quite close to the same, but they are still individual players. All of them have their own infrastructure, and they have their own CES, and so it's 8 different token providers in the bank sector. And in mobile ID field, there's 3 main mobile operators offering their mobile IDs, but they do more cooperation, and then they offer a proxy, which is connected to all of these 3. And our challenge has been during the last 15 years that all these players haven't been cooperating well enough, and that is something that I would like to tell you, that please do cooperation. It makes life much easier than if everybody is doing just the things by themselves. And because these players didn't manage to cooperate voluntarily, it led to the situation that, for example, if an e-service wanted to have a strong authentication in their service, they needed to do contracts with all of these, more than 10 token providers, and that is quite a mess if you want to have a good coverage of strong authentication, so that every citizen could use that. You really need to do about 10 or 12 contracts to get that possible, and especially in the public administration, that is a problem. A big problem has been because all agencies and all municipalities needed to do the same. So for the public administration, we had the 4-digit number amount of contracts only to get the strong authentication work, and this is what we have been now trying to solve. This trust network is something that it is an answer to that they didn't cooperate well enough, and It is already written on the law, and it will start on 1st of May next year. And the basic idea here is that if you want to offer a strong authentication token, you need to register yourself. It is a communications agency in Finland who is the regulation authority. So they need to register themselves, and then they must give their token inside the trust network. Then there's a new interesting players coming. They are the proxy services, and it means that if you launch a proxy service in trust network, you can have all of those tokens in your proxy inside the trust network. So this leads to the situation that the e-service providers can buy all of these tokens in the Finnish market with one contract only from the proxy services. And that is something that we hope that will open the market a little bit. At the moment there is practically no strong authentication commercial market in Finland. It's a public administration who in practice buys all strong authentication transactions in market. There's a small market, but that's a kind of rounding error compared to what we use in public administration. I will come to that a little bit later. But then, if we still expand a little bit, that what we are doing right now is that, so I mentioned that we have been working in silos pretty much. So that is the production-driven or organization-driven approach, and it means that if and when our organizations or agencies or municipalities have built their e-services, they have everybody has traditionally had their own server rooms. They organized their servers and databases and integration solutions and network connections and everything by themselves, and all this happens in parallel. So lots of money for that when there are so small services. And we are now started production in that way that we are moving these vertical silos to horizontal platforms. So the platform economies is what we are doing right now. This started about 2-3 years ago with this lowest level, the cloud platform. We did so that we founded a government ICT center called Valtori that is only for governmental agencies, but that is the only player in Finnish government now who offers basic ICT services like server capacity and network connections and such things, and all governmental agencies must buy it from Valtori. So it's not allowed anymore to buy a couple of servers and put them somewhere and run them by themselves. Then the next step is our program called National Architecture for Digital Services, and that is also a platform supporting the digital service providers to make better services, and it operates one layer up to ICT center Valtori. Also our services are using Valtori's ICT capacity and server capacity and such. And the next step is that these two lowest levels are already operating and working, and they are in the production use. And the next step is that we will focus on the upper layers, and that might be that is the most difficult part, that we really would get such e-services that would be somehow combined, related on the service needs of the citizens, so that we would get rid of the situation that they need to visit several e-services to get their service done, so that there would be kind of service paths and they could do the applications and inform the things in the same service instead of visiting many. Here is our platform in more detail. This e-identification is one of the most important, if not the most important, most likely it is the most important part, and it is a proxy service as well. The big idea here is that we would support service providers and we would support the citizens so that their needs would match better So the citizens' needs would match better to service provider offerings, so that we could push citizens voluntarily to use digital services instead of going to the physical service desk or calling to phone service, which are pretty much more expensive than the digital channel. But we also see that the usability is a really important issue, and namely we would like to have them to switch to digital channel voluntarily. We have towards the service providers, we have focused on APIs and something that an interfaces, so that our services would be easier to use, and so that they don't need to build the same things twice. Also, using our services is regulated. The law came into force last July, and it is also mandatory for whole public administration to use, namely these ones. So it is not allowed anymore that everybody would do their own e-identification or do their authorizations by themselves or some other stuff. And this is a kind of answer for this poor interoperability, so that when everybody is relying on the same infrastructure components or platform components, the interoperability is better automatically. Then for the citizen side, our main focus is to help citizens find governmental or public administration e-services, because we have thousands of them. It is quite clear that there are lots of good services that nobody has heard of, and that's why we are building a Suomi.fi web service at the moment. It is already, the beta version is in the production, and that will be the kind of a single window where you can find information about all Finnish public administration services, and it is also available for private companies, but of course it's voluntary for them. If they want to advertise about their services, it is free to use. The heart of the service views is this kind of also big thing is a service data repository, which is has been a kind of mess that everybody has updated their service data information on their web pages or some other places in a non-structured format. But this is a new master data repository that we started last summer, and it has the one and the same data structure and data model for all services, and so everybody, all agencies and municipalities with add their information about their services to the service data repository. So it's including metadata, for example, what is the purpose of this service, where you can access it in the internet, or where you can access it physically, and what are the opening hours and this kind of stuff. We have their open API for everybody. If somebody wants to use or build a search engine or something like that, all the data is there available, and it's also published as open data. So also commercial products are very welcome to do something on top of the service data repository. Actually, all of our services, what we have been building there, they have been built on scratch by ourselves, and we have published all of them as open source with MIT license. So if you need to do something similar, please check GitHub or ask us to help. This work, what we have been already doing, it's free to use. You don't need to, even if you do further development, you don't need to give it back to us. Oh, okay, that's some. Okay, so let's go back to Authentication Framework. I already explained the idea of trust network and our platform, and this is a snapshot of our e-identification service. So that is the part of our platform. So the full framework is now so that our e-identification service is at the moment connected. We have a contract with all banks and all mobile operators and such, so direct contract. But when the trust network starts next May, we will move to use that. So there will be these proxy services, and we will replace these several contracts with this one only. It works so that when a citizen goes to the e-service, these are public e-services here, there's a login button, he or she logs in, then we pass the query to the token provider, and then it asks the username and password for bank IDs or something else. It comes back to our e-identification service. We will then do one more checking towards population register. For example, if we notice that the token holder, the citizen, is dead, we stop using the service at that point. So that is for security reasons we do this checking, and then we pass the citizen back to e-service. Then this EU eIDAS work is ongoing at the same time. It is already in force, and there's a couple of years transition period ongoing at the moment, and it means that all EU country will have one proxy server called PEPS, Pan-European proxy server, and our e-identification service in Finland is also acting as a Finnish PEPS proxy towards eIDAS. So all EU countries have one proxy which are connected together, and the system works so that all token providers can decide if they will or if they want to offer their tokens towards EU. If they don't want, it is not mandatory, but I believe that most of them would offer. Then after that, all EU countries must accept all tokens which are notified in any EU country, and that is something that will make possible to use cross-border digital services with strong authentication in EU in the future. Let's come back to this picture for a while. So I forgot to mention that this our e-identification service is only available for public administration, and the idea is that we would need to open the commercial market for strong authentication, and these other proxy services inside the trust network, they are the ones who will serve the private sector. So there would be a similar picture. There are e-services, commercial e-services, and private services that can utilize the same kind of framework, but they are not allowed to use our e-identification proxy, but they can use any others inside the trust network. So in the future, there's a big will that also private sector would start using the strong authentication more in Finland. Then last topic which I can't be mentioned. This is quite heavily related to strong authentication, what we have been implementing, and this is something that has been raising a lot of interest in Finland, our authorization and role-based authorization and warrant service. There are two kinds of authorizations in Finland what we have been implementing. First is a kind of register-based authorization. We have two interfaces. One is an interface that will check if you are allowed to service on behalf of your children. So it will check that who adults are who are your children basically. And it sounds quite simple, but I can convince that it is not, because of all divorces and adoptions and all other things. It's really difficult to have that kind of checking interface, but we have that running already. It is quite simple to use by service provider. They can easily implement that directly into their e-service, and then the citizen can switch the role there. So they authenticate strongly by themselves and use only their own strong authentication tokens. Then they can switch the role to the child. It sends the query to our service, and there's a selection then which asks that on behalf of which of your child you want to, or children you want to have a service, and then you click that, and then our service returns that information to the e-service, and then the service, you can have the service, continue using the service on behalf of your child. For example, one really interesting use case for that is that in Finland we have a law that you can renew your prescriptions once without visiting doctor. And because we have all of our prescriptions are nowadays digital prescriptions, it is quite advantage. For example, for myself when I can see my children's prescriptions from the service, and I can renew those ones there. Of course, it sends to some doctor who then accepts or declines that renewal, but it helps a lot when we don't need to visit doctors anymore. Same kind of checking interface, register-based interface we have towards company register. So we will have a similar query there, and it will respond that if the person is allowed to have a service on behalf of the company. And then this warrants is something that we will launch next spring. It is a new register of given warrants. It holds the information that so that I can give a warrant to somebody else for some specific purpose. And it works so that I will authenticate myself strongly and then choose to whom I would like to give a warrant and to which purpose. Then it sends to query to that person that okay, you have now received a request to receive a warrant from this person, and then if he or she accepts it, then it's possible that he can or she can use the service on behalf of me. On the picture there's a one use case which is quite common. There's a family. The man has divorced once. This family has two common kids, and the husband has one child with his ex-wife. They have old parents which are probably not able to use digital devices. And then this ex-wife is running a company, a small company. She's buying services from an accounting company, and then there's some bookkeeper inside the accounting company. So there are lots of needs for authorizations. All of these are done by paper at the moment, but the whole this stuff will run digitalized in near future in Finland. The half of this is running already now, but this warrant register is something that we are still doing, and we'll launch it next year. So to summarize, I would say that the most important thing, no matter what you are doing in digitalization, is that do cooperate and have networking and use common standards. Do not work in silos as we have been doing too much in Finland. It just leads that the services don't discuss to each other, and it is quite a mess. If everybody is following their own standards, it doesn't work in digital world, because in a digital world, basically any actions don't follow any organizational boundaries or even country boundaries. So it is essential that when citizens are traveling across the borders, also the digital services must go across the borders. So that's why cooperation is the most important thing that I would like to tell you today.